Welcome once again. Today we're looking at the movie The Patriot from 1998, starring yours truly, Steven Seagal. Now, I am a huge fan of Steven Seagal. Many people don't seem to like him in real life, and I know he's done some, questionable things in his time as an actor. But I'd put him and Charles Bronson in my top five watchable action heroes in movies. So just as big as a fan of Steven Seagal, just as I am with Charles Bronson. Stay tuned for more of those, and you'll see more of Steven Seagal real soon. But let's focus on this movie first. Now, I know a lot of you have seen the memes, the jokes, the movies he's done in the last 30 years or so of Steven Seagal, but you can't go wrong that he's a very watchable actor in the movies he's made in those last 30 years. May not be the best, but he's still very watchable. And the man has an aura which a lot of people cannot admit. Now here we are, Ennis, Montana, a small town, and here we see our hero, Dr. Wesley McClaren, played by Steven Seagal, as he rides his horse around healing animals in pain, and here we see his daughter sleeping. We also meet Frank, Wesley's close friend, played by LQ Jones, or Justice McQueen, since he has two names. He's a semi-recognizable actor if you're a Western fan, but a lot of viewers still recognize him from the movie Casino from 1995 with Robert De Niro. And now we see this divide between the FBI and rogue military group led by this Floyd Chisholm, who only believes on his own, beliefs since he has lived life, of course, and will do anything for his beliefs to come true. And his expertise on United States history just motivates him to try and conquer the town of Ennis, Montana, and to go against the law that's, embedded. Chisholm is pretty much against modern day America and has a group of young soldiers with him and has them brainwashed and thinking this way. But Pogue over here looks like just playing along. He is Chisholm's right hand man, by the way. So we are now back at the McLaren house where Wesley is cooking up breakfast, and we see Holly McLaren at the table doing her homework while old Frank over here is playing and wasting time with her, or playing peekaboo.
SSI. Hey, Frank, haven't you got anything better to do?
And we see one of Steven Seagal's many Oriental jackets, Asian jackets. I think it's Chinese. I'm not sure. It's interesting that he's mixed Western fashion with Asian fashion here. So Frank leaves, and now Wesley and Holly are having breakfast and having a nice dad and daughter conversation.
Breakfast, he uses too much Tabasco sauce, and he's got a lot of gas. He's on the outhouse right now.
And to end it off, they have their wildflower tea. Okay, so we are back at the Chisholm Clubhouse, and we get to see Floyd Chisholm himself taking a dose of NAM-37, a virus that he's eventually going to spread everywhere around Ennis, Montana, as Chisholm seeks his first victim. Okay, so Chisholm now surrenders pretentiously, and the FBI agents take him in for his revolutionary behavior, mainly for illegal possession of guns. Meanwhile, Wesley's on his way to work now after he drops off Holly, since he is a doctor for immunology and also known as an immunobiologist. And if you know anything about Steven Seagal like I do, since he became famous in 1988, above the law, he has a strong interest in herbs and natural medicine. And this movie pretty much reflects that as he plays an immunobiologist. Frank tells Wesley that Floyd Chisholm gave himself up now that there's heavy traffic, but Floyd is now at the courthouse and he's ready to confess. So Wesley's now at his clinic and treats a patient here for some kidney problem, and we are back at the courthouse where Chisholm is ready for the perfect moment to infect his next victim, or his first victim of NOM-37 that he's ingested. While this video of him is playing, going crazy. So the first victim is, of course, the judge, is now infected with NOM-37 from his saliva, Chisholm's. So we're now back at the Dr. Wesley McClaren clinic as he takes a look at this patient over here, but the doctor over here wants Clem patient to go in on a strict diet of vitamins and herbs as well as special medicine, which Clem cannot afford since he's broke.
Because in Western medicine, they're in the business of prolonging illness, and I'm in the business of curing.
Seagal isn't wrong here, folks. So Dr. McClaren makes him a deal. Clem fixes cabinets. Seagal will pay him for a service so that he could buy the fancy medicine that's been prescribed to Clem.
Doctor, you have a phone call. Says it's important.
All right.
Now the secretary comes out to tell Dr. McClaren that there is an important phone call for him. And this secretary is played by Steven Seagal's real-life daughter, by the way, Ayako Fujitani. His first wife, Miyako Fujitani. It's weird that she was not included in the credits of the movie. So Wesley gets a call from a government doctor, Dr. Richard Bach. So Dr. Richard's joking with Wesley here, then reveals who he is. And Dr. Richard tries hard to ask for Wesley's help since he doesn't want to tell him directly that the Nom-37 virus somehow spread out in Ennis, Montana.
There is no next man on the list.
So now Floyd is sent to the jail cell, and the judge is now cooling off from that spit he got from Chisholm. We are now back at the Dr. Wesley McClaren clinic as he checks up on another patient, an old lady this time. To thank him, she gives him this blackberry pie and a Damascus nut, which he refuses. So it is now the end of the day, and Holly's done school, and Wesley and her are heading home. Now, he gets a call from a doctor at the local hospital about an emergency.
Hey, get your homework done. If there's any guys in here, no flirting, no dating until you're 40.
Okay, Daddy.
And of course, it's that infectious spit that came out of the mouth of Floyd Chisholm onto the judge. Wesley starts questioning the sheriff when he brought the judge here. Now he is also infected by the Nom-37 virus. Wesley calls back Dr. Richard to have a team of experts over right away. And Frank is now at the hospital after noticing ambulances and government cars all over Ennis. Helicopters now land in Ennis, and Dr. Rich is also here, and Wesley is pissed off that this Nom-37 virus was supposed to be destroyed a long time ago, and this virus is now destroyed on time. It will destroy the human race. The movie does have a very on deadly ground kind of look to it, a Western-themed kind of movie, but a planetary issue involving humans and the environment, very Seagal-esque. But we're back in the hospital. Wesley learns that the virus Nom-37 was stolen and sold to someone else. So that someone who bought it was, of course, Floyd Chisholm. So Holly's now looking out the window and is
Really afraid of needles. Hate them.
with the people in spacesuits. And here we see Pogue again, dressed like Clint Eastwood from that Western Coogan's Bluff. As he poses as a close visitor to Floyd Chisholm. Pogue is now inside speaking to Chisholm, and Chisholm says that he is slowly getting sick by the Nom-37 virus. But Pogue tells him that the formula Chisholm is using is not working, and he just slows it down. And he has to keep on taking this antitoxin to maintain that level of slowness. So, of course, if Chisholm stops taking the formula, he will end up like the judge. And here we see Frank again getting coffees with the doctors, flirting with Wesley's patient over here. Frank gets a little touchy over here for not getting a proper answer about the virus. Luckily, Seagal is there to save Dr. Richard.
Hey, Frank. Yes, Wesley. Do you think we got bigger problems? Yes, sir. Leave him alone.
So Pogue sets Chisholm free, and soldiers barge in toward the FBI covered as farm hay to get to the hospital. And of course, Chisholm is also now present.
And medical people in here. Move!
Ready to shoot up the hospital, and Wesley takes a Damascus knife. Pogue notices the formula Dr. Richard is injecting into the people of Ennis, and it's the same one that Chisholm keeps on using to slow down the infection of the virus. Wesley also learns that the antitoxin formula that slows down the viral infectious Nom-37 does not work. Pogue prints some papers out, notices that people with a certain blood type can't catch anything from the Nom-37 exposure, and that blood type is AB, and of course Wesley's daughter Holly has a special blood type to use it, part of the antidote that should have been made a long time ago. But Chisholm tells this soldier to look for Holly McClaren. So Wesley's not telling Chisholm where Holly is, so he shoots one of the doctors. Wesley takes out the knife and takes Pogue with him and grabs Holly and crashes out through this window. But Frank picks him up and leaves Ennis for a little while until a cure is found. And meanwhile, Chisholm's desperate for Holly McClaren's blood. So Frank drops Wesley and Holly off at some cabin where Wesley can use a Photoshop type of technology website by making this government ID card to get into the facility where he will go soon. Sort of like Charles Bronson from Death Wish 2 when he was making that ID card to when he has to kill that big guy that raped and killed his daughter. But he didn't have access to Photoshop. He used his own two hands. Frank now gets ready to kill some of Chisholm's men by throwing this dynamite. So Frank is now dead, and Wesley grabs Frank's body and takes it with him for a proper burial, and Holly to her grandpa's cabin. So Chisholm is made aware that the trucks filled with his soldiers have been ambushed, of course, by Frank. So Wesley and Holly camp for the night, and it's quite noticeable that Steven Seagal here is playing a native in this movie from the way he's posing here. as for the rest of the movie, and I guess he has the look to play convincing native, even though he is a white man with a mix of many backgrounds. Charles Bronson's another good example where he has played Apache roles in maybe 4 or 5 westerns from the 1960s, but the famous example being Chato's Land. I guess he just has a look for it, and Seagal does so too. I think that that Family Guy episode from the early 2000s does make sense now.
Here's from my old buddy, Steven Seagal.
So Wesley and Holly make it to Grandpa McClaren's cabin, and here we see Anne, I guess Wesley's sister, or I don't know what she is to him. I guess there's no blood relation, but Wesley's digging up a hole to bury Frank, and with his native chant in the background. Well, as the four, remember Frank. So Pogue and Chisholm are still at the hospital trying to find another solution to the NOM-37 virus, as in the other scene. Wesley and Ann are both finding a cure themselves, so now it's time for Wesley to use that photoshopped ID card for good now, as he and Ann are headed to that lab where he can further search for an antidote as Holly stays back with Grandpa.
Red medicine.
This purple one.
So Pogue is still looking for a cure. Chisholm's now asking for a shot of the antitoxin. So Wesley and Ann are now inside as it becomes challenging to enter the facility. So Wesley and Ann are now in, and they are suddenly placed on arrest, but Seagal does this.
Lower your weapons.
So Wesley gains their trust and is now walking to the labs, and it's his old lab that he used to work at, and sees that he left his print on it.
Just like I never left. See a little resemblance there?
One soldier is already dead, infected by NOM-37. So Wesley and Ann get to work, and now they have a tea break, and Wesley notices that the head soldier is not infected yet. So that's a good sign, and continue the testing process. Notice that the 2 soldiers are now dead, and continue to test again. So Chisholm is watching the news, and now he just gives up on his rebellious beliefs for now.
Your history's good, son, but that was a long time ago. Things have changed.
And more soldiers are dead from Wesley's further testing, as the head soldier is the only one who remains alive.
Don't die. That's an order. Yes, sir.
Wesley's now pissed off that none of his antidotes are working and just loses it. And tells Wesley that why the head soldier continues to remain alive is that he also drank the same tea, which is wildflower tea, as Wesley and Ann have been also drinking that same tea, and that's why they're not infected yet. And that the same tea that Holly McClaren also drank in the first 10 minutes of the movie. So the two collect as many wildflowers, the same flowers Grandpa McClaren was showing Holly when she was staying with him. Now that this antidote is done, now being injected into the head soldier. And the head soldier is now better from drinking the wildflower tea. So
Damn, that's great.
You'd be cool, sir.
it looks like Anne learned to talk like Seagal here, and gets kidnapped by Chisholm soldiers. And so Wesley sits down with Chisholm, as Holly now sits down with the soldiers, and Chisholm continues to converse with Wesley. But we get this.
Let's have a toast. Deliberation.
Wesley now goes to look for Holly and is now face to face with Pogue. Wesley and Holly escape, and now he calls the Army's colonel to tell him that wildflowers are the cure to the NOM-37 virus all along. So the Army now collects wildflowers, and now a helicopter has landed with Wesley and Holly running towards it as they're back home, with the helicopter dropping wildflower petals all over Ennis. So one of the many voiceovers you will see in the next set of Steven Seagal movies after 2003. And that's it. And that's The Patriot from 1998. A lot of people confuse it with Mel Gibson's movie with the same title that came out in 2000. Not the best movie, but one of the Steven Seagal's many direct-to-DVD movies, as this was the beginning of that direct-to-DVD legacy. As much as I do know, Steven Seagal has always wanted to do a Western movie, and this is the closest thing to it. And I think also Undeadly Ground also has a Western kind of theme. I mean, if you know Steven Seagal well like I do, you cannot go wrong with his earlier movies from 1988 to 2002. So he did have a good 10 plus years of stardom in Hollywood in which he made movies, but this is not one of them. Overall, it's only a one-time watch, and it's very forgettable. Anyway, see you soon in the first Rocky movie from 1976. Stay tuned for that. Take care, watch away, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. and take care.